Most genius characters suck, and after suffering through the antics of characters like Reed Richards and BBC Sherlock, I reckon there are 4 main ways writers can drop the ball here. Even making one of them can ruin a character, such as in Captain America 4. If you didn't see that film, don't worry, you didn't miss much, but in it they try really quite hard to make you think he's a genius.
Maybe you're not as smart as you think you are.
I am, actually.
Only the problem is he makes some Reed Richards-esque blunders, and there are so many. Some of them are simple and silly, while others ruin his character. So in the first meeting with Sam, he's come prepared, for you see there's a sound speaker in the very centre of the room, only the centre mind you, and it's so he can blast Sam with it if he attacks. Only, what if Sam decided to just walk around it? Or, throw his shield, which Captain America is famous for doing. He's totally screwed if Sam does either of those things. And the movie is over if he does. And also, Sam and his highly annoying sidekick are in the military. What if they brought a gun? The leader really didn't think this one through.
I didn't calculate new Falcon using Falcon guns.
But let's move on to the worst bit. So, context, President Ford wrongly imprisoned the leader for many years and forced him to work for him, so he wants revenge. His grand plan is to secretly turn him into a Hulk, then cause him to rage out, and in so doing, ruin his reputation. That's an incredibly roundabout way of getting revenge, but it's not a terrible plan. What is terrible is how he does it. So, he wants revenge on the president for imprisoning him. Clearly, the man does not like being in prison. And his grand plan in the end, his coup de grace, is to turn himself in, going back to prison, and in so doing, people will hear him out and know his story about the many illegal things the president did. Here's the rub with all of this. Yes, it works. It does stress the president and cause him to Hulk out. But why did he need to surrender to do it? My guy, the internet exists. Just record a video of you saying all of this into a camera. Include the evidence proving your story, upload it to YouTube, and send it to every news channel for good measure. Doing that has the same effect. Him surrendering and going back to prison, which is clearly a thing he hates because of his main motivation in the film, has no impact on the effectiveness of this plan. You'd think a super genius who's so big-brained, it's literally bulging through his head, would know that. But then you've got a character who was only on screen for a few minutes, and in just that time made even more blunders than the leader did.
I'm the smartest man alive, Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four.
And that sets up some lofty expectations, making it so much worse when in just the next scene, he makes several decisions so stupid it gets everybody killed. So, bit of context, Wanda is rampaging through the multiverse, slaughtering people by the hundreds so she can murder a teenage girl, so she can steal her powers, so she can kidnap 2 children who aren't even her children, but one she believes to be hers because she had a magical dream about them one time. Right, as literally anybody could see, she's not just deranged, she's incredibly dangerous. Now, let's say you're going up against this absurdly powerful, mass-murdering maniac. What would your plan be? Take the girl she's after and retreat to an ultra-secure bunker? No, that's far too sensible. Eject that girl to another universe, making it someone else's problem, so Wanda leaves you alone. No, again, that's a plan that would actually work. We can't have that. Okay, call in every superhero available and ambush her with overwhelming force. Again, no, because that's far too sensible. The real answer, guys, is to bring just 2/3 of your already fairly small team. Who needs those extra 2 people? Like, honestly, having overwhelming numerical superiority, any genius knows that's overrated in a fight. Then you stride up to her, waste the element of surprise, and politely ask the deranged maniac to stop. Now that's how you do it.
Wanda, stop. You've possessed an innocent woman, but you can still do the right thing.
But don't worry, guys. It's not like he has no idea what to do when she inevitably says no. He has a backup plan of attack, and as any genius would, he telegraphs it. He tells the enemy exactly what it is.
Black Bolt could destroy you with one whisper from his mouth.
12 seconds later.
So when she kills him as her opening move, and your backup plan slumps down dead on the ground because of you and your genius decision-making as the smartest man alive, what do you do? Do you retreat? No, that's far too sensible. Or tell your team to attack all at once so she can't focus on any one person? No, the real answer is to just reach for her. Not even to punch, just to grab her shoulder or something. That's what you do. Oh! Never mind. If this were a hopeless situation where they were totally outgunned, that would be one thing. But the sheer number of ways they could have beaten her, if we were to pull a Doctor Strange and look through the millions of possible approaches, Reed went for probably the second or third worst out of all of them. A really obvious way to play your cards better is team composition. Captain Carter and Marvel are clearly the tanks of the group. It should be them up front to take the brunt of Wanda's initial attack, while the glass cannon that is Black Bolt and the support that is Reed Richards stay behind them. With just that change, their odds of success shoot right up. Have your archers behind the dudes with the shields. A principle so simple, all children understand it by the age of 12, although it's a principle that has eluded the smartest man alive. Apparently. I did actually rewrite this scene, and I proposed a strategy Reed could have used that would have had incredibly high odds of success, but I cut it out because, what's the point? What would it prove? Any other approach would have been better. Having everyone just sprint right at her in one big charge would have been an upgrade. This scene is so badly written, it inspired a dozen creators to redo it, but with the key change of what if Reed was actually smart.
Would you really do that for me? Thank you so
Psych
much.
bitch, Black Bolt, now.
But in the movie's defense, everyone else we see from that universe makes some real blunders, such as the two captains just watching, doing nothing, as two of their team very slowly get murdered before them, so this might have been an idiocracy situation. In this universe, Reed might have actually been the smartest man alive, although he wasn't for terribly long. You can see why this is the most annoying mistake of the lot. The mistake of them not just being not a genius, but making incredibly stupid choices. But there are still 3 entirely distinct mistakes Hollywood makes with their genius characters, and we've only covered one. Before we look at the next, I just want to let you guys know that my next video, Why Show Don't Tell is Terrible Advice, is up right now on Patreon. In it, I explain why the most popular piece of writing advice out there is actually awful and you should do everything you can to avoid it. The plan with this one was to fundamentally change what a lot of people's perspectives are on what good writing even is, and I think I succeeded. I'm really proud of how this one turned out. But wait! There's more! I've also made another video on how to write a character smarter than you are as an extension to this video, and it is only up on Patreon. It will never be anywhere else, just on my Patreon. If you join at the cheapest tier, you can watch both of these videos right now, and support me and my team in making more of these videos. Do check them out by clicking my link in the description and signing up for my Patreon. But as for Hollywood failing at writing geniuses, let's look at an example that falls for 2 of the 4 mistakes simultaneously. Gladiator 2. If you didn't see this one, don't worry, you didn't miss much, but Macronus is the big bad villain, and everything about the way he's handled is trying to make you think he's a genius character. Only there are problems. Context. In his backstory, he's a slave who somehow became one of the richest men in Rome. Everything about his backstory is trying so hard to make you believe this is a man whose social and political acumen are peerless. Get ready to be wowed by his machinations. Macronus is out to become emperor, and the 2 current emperors, let's just say they must be from Reed Richards' universe because they're morons. Case in point, a beloved general has just come back from a successful military campaign where he's conquered swaths of territory for the Empire. When he asks for the modest reward he does,
I only ask for some respite from war. To spend time with my wife.
You'd think any leader with even a shred of competence would grant him a couple weeks off. Certainly don't put your sword to their neck and threaten to kill the guy if he doesn't immediately get back to it and invade somewhere else. Now, all of this is fine, by the way. If you want to have 2 nitwits in charge, for many stories that's a great idea a la Game of Thrones. But it's a terrible one for this story, because the political intrigue is a huge part of Gladiator 2, and these 2 idiots are right at the heart of it as Macrinus manipulates them. Even if you haven't seen the film, you can already tell there's a massive problem with that story premise. So, Macrinus wants to become emperor. He wants to make the public's opinion sour on the current emperors so they'll yearn for a new leader. That's when he plans to take the reins. Step 1, become a trusted advisor to the emperors. In their first meeting, they like him immediately when his slave, the protagonist, recites some poetry. This isn't anything Macrinus planned, the slave was just going off script. And how do the emperors react to this?
Very clever, Macrinus.
Thank you.
I've grown so bored, but you surprised me.
So he's instantly in their good graces without really trying. He learns there's a plot to dethrone the emperors, so he tells them, and that solidifies their trust. Step 2 in his plan, ruin their reputation. General Ecclesius is a beloved war hero, so he cajoles the emperors into forcing him into a gladiator match, essentially publicly executing him, and it does the trick. The people come to hate them. After the people start screaming with hatred at the two of them, after riots break out because of what occurred, it doesn't even cross the emperor's minds that the advice Macrinus just gave them wasn't terribly good, and that maybe, just maybe, the guy they first met only a couple weeks ago can't be trusted. Then we learn that one of them has syphilis and has totally lost his mind.
Forgive my brother's outburst. The disease that infects his loins has spread to his brain.
So, Macrinus strolls up to the guy and says without any evidence, "You know your brother? Yeah, he's planning on betraying you." And he instantly believes him, then goes to murder his brother. You can see where I'm going with this. My dude, you do not need to be Littlefinger to manipulate these morons. Anyone could. They're so manipulatable, if that's even a word. Him outwitting these guys feels like Mike Tyson going in the ring against a 3-year-old. But surely in the climax, we'll finally see an actually devious scheme of his. Or he'll somehow face an unexpected challenge for once. Well, no. He convinces the remaining emperors to kill Marcus Aurelius' daughter, who's truly beloved by the people. She's basically Princess Diana to them, and to do it in an outrageously unfair gladiator match where everyone can see this is just a fancy execution. And just to be safe, he gets the emperor to also kill a ton of democratically elected senators at the same time.
Until she dies, you will never know peace.
Now, it is an effective plan, for sure. It works like a charm. The people loathe him and start to riot. But you can see the issue here, or rather issues, because there are quite a few. Every move Macrinus makes is obvious. He doesn't make any bad decisions, let's be fair to the guy, but every decision he makes is a really easy one. Of course you want to tell the emperors about the plot to depose them. It keeps the idiots in power, keeps everyone else who's competent out of power, and makes the idiots trust him more, meaning they're easier to manipulate. Then having them kill off beloved public figures, it's the most obvious move to make if you want the people to hate the emperors as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Here's why Macrinus is a poorly written genius. In order for a story to be compelling, there needs to be challenge. Our genius needs to face hardship, failures where they have to adapt their plans as they enact their schemes. Ideally, they're outwitted at certain points. However, because the two people he's trying to manipulate are so inept, the throne is practically his the moment the movie begins, and we're waiting for 2 hours of runtime for the inevitable plot beat of his ascension to emperor. This also presents the good question: if it were truly that easy to make these fools essentially kill themselves and give over their crowns, why has no one tried this before? How did they survive the first week on the job? The two are surrounded by advisors, so why was it only Macrinus who had the 2 brain cells required to realise, hey, I could manipulate these idiots into giving me all of their power? When you look at the logic of the world, it's infeasible that these two have held power for as long as they have, considering how Macrinus practically yanks their crowns away and puts them on his head, and they're too stupid to figure out, even then, that he wants to replace them. This is one of the big 4 failures the film falls for, a failure to present the genius with compelling obstacles. Macrinus' subplot is boring. It just is, because everything comes to him so easily. He never faces obstacles. Every time he makes a plan, it never needs to be adapted because it always goes off perfectly, with the one exception of, in the end, for no reason at all, he leaves his army behind and goes to fight a champion gladiator who's half his age. And it goes as well as anybody could expect. Macrinus is clever, apart from the end. He's no fool, and he's certainly no Reed Richards, apart from the end. But the story never does anything to earn the designation genius from the guy, despite trying so very hard. The only way the writers knew how to achieve that effect was A, give him a backstory of having done clever things in the past, and B, have every character he interacts with be an idiot. That way, he looks like a genius purely by being relatively more clever than everybody else. As I said, there are ultimately two problems with the way Gladiator II writes its villain. The other is a failure to have the character do anything actually genius, a failure to earn the designation. At least when you look at Darth Sidious, now there's a guy who's actually genius. He creates a war between two sides where he controls both, so however the war goes, he's in charge of the winning side and can use that as a path to total power. He commissions the clone army in secret so the Republic won't get steamrolled, so the conflict can be a much closer run thing, meaning it lasts longer, meaning more Jedi die fighting the war, and more importantly, he can build an army where when the time is right, they're perfectly positioned to annihilate the Jedi once and for all. That's genuinely quite clever, it is. Then there's his tactful cajoling of Anakin, preying on his insecurities and making him join his side. His political machinations are brilliant, as he's outsmarting the most powerful people in the galaxy, and it's brilliant because only a genius character could have done what he did. It's a very creative, thoroughly considered plan. And of course, take the scene where Mace and the other Jedi confront him. It's a brilliant scene in part because something unexpected is happening. Palpatine is facing an actual obstacle on his path to power. Another example here is the trailer for the new Ironheart show that literally nobody asked for. It tries quite hard to make you think she's a genius, showing her solving a taxing problem. Oh no, she's trapped in an elevator and needs to get out. What's her amazing plan? It's to tear off a convenient metal bar and use it to pry open the door. That is then after they have the gall to have a character say this.
I heard Riri Williams was a genius.
Going back, we can make Macrinus a much more compelling villain by replacing those two emperors with Commodus from film 1. That simple change, and suddenly it's a much better film. I'm not saying they should have done this is just me making a point, but Commodus had a head on his shoulders. He understands that executing senators and beloved figures is political suicide. Why else would he murder his father in secret? And when he fights Maximus, he makes sure to rig the fight by stabbing him first, so his odds of success are way higher. The guy was a monster and many other things, but an idiot wasn't one of them. If Macrinus had to manipulate him, suddenly that's a story. He might have to devise an actually clever plan for that. But no. I'll tell you another example here that echoes Gladiator II's failings. Sister Sage in the recent season of The Boys. If you missed it, don't worry, you didn't miss much. It's one of those stories that makes the usually fatal claim that this character is the smartest person alive.
You know, I would have thought the smartest woman on Earth would have a nicer place.
Smartest person.
And this isn't some secret, by the way. It's public knowledge. The boys know she's a super genius. So when they learn she's making a secret appearance at a convention, they go straight there, not once considering that she might have fed them that clue and set a trap for them, which, surprise, she did. It's actually hilarious how throughout the whole season, despite the boys knowing she's the world's smartest person, they never stop to ask themselves,
hold on a tick, lads. Let's stop for a second. She's a super genius, right? Is this not some, ornate scheme of hers? Do we want to play into that so thoughtlessly? Let's stop for a second and really think this one through.
It's hilarious, because anyone in their situation would. If you were playing a game of chess against Magnus Carlsen, it would at least cross your mind that he's a grandmaster. You'd at least realise you're outmatched and he's going to crush you with a sophisticated strategy. You'd at least let it inform your actions in some way instead of blundering on without thought. I mean, Sister Sage is undeniably a clever character. She has some fairly well thought through schemes going on. She makes it look like Starlight's fans murdered some people to spoil her image, and that is good stuff. Then she riles Starlight up and gets her to publicly attack someone, again spoiling her image. These aren't thoughtless plans, and they're certainly more telling of genius than anything Macrinus ever did. But in the face of them, the boys act so entirely unthinkingly, it ruins their believability as characters, especially because in prior seasons, they had some quite devious plans cooking. They're not stupid at all. In fact, the boys are quite clever in earlier seasons. But the writers said that she's the smartest person alive, and fueled by fear that they couldn't have her live up to that moniker, they handicapped the intelligence of the main characters. They made them stupider so she would seem more clever compared to them. And also so her plans could go off without a hitch, making her appear even more clever. Most of her plans would have been foiled if the boys had approached things with the tact they displayed in the prior seasons. The boys and Gladiator 2 fell for the same problems in the same ways. I'm going to quickly rewrite Season 4 of The Boys. The first time they go up against Sage, they really think it through. They try quite hard to outwit her, but she is 5 steps ahead of them and makes them look like fools. They try the same again, but this time really thinking things through, and again she outwits them. Finally defeated, they ask,
"How do you outthink a genius? God, how's that even possible?"
It would have been really fun if the boys are posing themselves that question throughout the season until they come across the solution to create the stupidest plan, like something so monumentally thick that nobody would dream of trying it, and it catches Sister Sage so totally off guard, it works like a charm. They figure out that the way you beat a genius is by enacting plans so stupid she has to start thinking like a moron in order to predict you, and once she's doing that, it's all over because then you can beat her with experience. Or screw it, maybe they pull a Rick and Morty from that heist episode, or they act randomly. They roll a die every time as to what they're going to do, and it kinda works because Sister Sage is entirely unprepared for people embodying pure chaos where every decision is decided by a dice roll.
That's why I picked this crew at random, and why all of us will be taking our orders from Randotron.
The rub with genius characters is in order for following them to be fun, they have to be challenged. They have to be contending with people who are employing plans of their own, so the other characters aren't being purely reactive. The other characters are also at least clever enough to foresee part of the genius's plan and take steps to stop it. Otherwise, where is the conflict in this story? If we want a good counterexample to cleanse the palate, it would have to be Watchmen. That is the only story I can think of where they make the bold claim,
I mean, hell, you're the smartest man on the planet.
and they actually back it up. You believe Ozymandias is a top-tier genius. In terms of depicting a genius villain skulking around and scheming, Watchmen is probably the best showing Hollywood's ever had, or at least he's tied with Palpatine here, I reckon. What makes it so good is a lot of his scheming, you can't fully appreciate it on a first watch, because you're not really looking for it, but then you realise, oh, it was Ozymandias who deftly ruined Dr. Manhattan's reputation by giving his wife cancer, so it would look like Manhattan had given it to her instead, then staging a press event where he'd be ambushed with her diagnosis live on camera, so he'd have an absolute meltdown, making the big lie at the end of his grand plan much more credible to people. Then there's him knowing Rorschach is investigating him, so he takes him out by killing an old supervillain that he deduces Rorschach's been visiting, framing him for his murder, and making sure the police are there to catch him in the act. But of course, to muddy his tracks, he makes it look like this mysterious bad guy is coming after the superheroes in general, so he organises his own fake assassination to make him look like just another victim. And then he deftly poisons the assassin so no one can question him.
Poison capsule. Don't bite down, you son of a bitch. Who sent you?
I would say the only thing stopping this from being a rip-roaringly tense story is how Ozymandias basically wins non-stop, which isn't ideal, but to alleviate that, they made such a smart choice in making this a mystery plot, so you're trying to figure out who is this mysterious figure who's pulling all of these strings as effectively as they are. It's a really good choice for this story, because you feel dread about how terrifyingly competent this mysterious antagonist is, as opposed to apathy like you might in Gladiator 2. And it all comes to a head in the climax when he defeats a god. And it's one of the best written moments in terms of writing geniuses Hollywood's ever done. I love it so much. He tries to get Dr. Manhattan to leave Earth forever.
Sudden flood of emotion John felt when he came to believe he'd given cancer to the people he loved. It was all the excuse he needed to leave Earth.
You used his psych profile to manipulate him. Got him to leave the planet.
It works, but only for a bit because he soon comes back. So he tries to kill Dr. Manhattan and gets further with it than anyone ever has before, but even that fails and all's looking lost for him when he reveals his backup plan. He can't kill Dr. Manhattan, but he can force him into a situation where someone of his cold, logical personality can see exactly why Adrian did what he did. So much so, he doesn't just agree with him, he's willing to murder people in order to preserve Adrian's victory. It's so good. If you want to write a character as clever as that, what you don't want to do is have them be so clever that the logical deductions they reach, while seemingly brilliant, are filled with impossible assumptions. On a completely unrelated note, Sherlock is a show that came out in 2010, and in its prime was near universally loved. The problem was that almost everything Sherlock deduced was pure bullshit when you really stopped to think about it, and the longer the series went on, the more bullshit its depiction of genius characters became, until it ended in season 4. Nope, we're not going there. Not even touching it. Nope, we're not doing that. But even in the earlier seasons, the only explanation for Sherlock being as brilliant as he was isn't innate talent. It's because he's a magician. Like, I could pick almost any of Sherlock's deductions in the show, but let's take pretty much the very first one, when he's looking over a woman's corpse in a study in pink. So he notices that all of her jewellery is shiny except for her wedding ring. From that, he deduces that she's unhappily married. That's fair enough. He inspects the ring and finds out that it's much cleaner on the inside, so it's regularly removed. Again, all's fine so far. But then there's his big conclusion. She must be a serial adulterer. And this is where the skullduggery arises, because while that is a viable assumption, there are several other equally reasonable assumptions to make from all of that evidence. You know, like she could be a serial adulterer, or her flat merely doesn't have space for a dishwasher, so when she does the washing up, she removes her ring because she doesn't want to damage the gold by scraping it. She could also have developed the habit of toying with her ring when she's nervous or overstressed, or she'll rotate it or take it off and fiddle with it, hinting at her possible occupation. She might be a doctor or a caterer. Rings are a hygiene risk, so a diligent professional would remove theirs often. All of those are reasonable conclusions given the evidence. Her being a serial adulterer is a true stab in the dark from Sherlock, and this is really Sherlock on its best behaviour. He only made one magical assumption in that scene. In many others, his conclusions are even more farcical. He sees a man killed with blunt force trauma and no footprints are nearby but his own. An eyewitness says his car backfired and after the noise he noticed the dude was suddenly dead on the floor. That is all of the evidence. In all probability, the man was simply epileptic, he had a seizure, perhaps triggered by the loud noise of the backfiring. He then collapsed and hit his head on the bloody rock that is perfectly placed to have caused that injury. With the evidence at hand, that is overwhelmingly the most probable answer. But no! Sherlock somehow knows it was really a boomerang. Despite having no evidence a boomerang was ever there at the time of his conclusion, it was only found later. And even worse, Mycroft solved the same crime in the same way just by reading the police report.
Thought the hiker and the backfire. I glanced at the police report, a bit obvious, surely.
Transparent.
He sees that John was given a phone.
Harry Watson, clearly a family member who's given you his old phone. Not your father, this is a young man's gadget.
He simply knows it's his brother because a younger person is more likely to own one than an older person. Yet another big assumption there, and it's all in spite of the evidence that they don't even address, that Harry Watson, whoever he is, was given this phone himself by someone called Clara. The fact the phone's prior owner received it as a gift themselves invalidates Sherlock's idea entirely. It's very reasonable for an old man to be given a phone that he wouldn't normally buy. And who even gives a phone that tacky with those kinds of engravings? A young person with a sense of style probably would never give one, so Clara, the older person, probably gave it to her husband. When you weigh up the evidence on display, it's actually more likely that his father gave it to him instead of his brother. Then he moves on to the infamous bit, the scratches near the plug.
Power connection, tiny little scuff marks around the edge of it. Every night he goes to plug it in to charge, but his hands are shaking. You never see those marks on a sober man's phone, never see a drunk's without them.
He knows that John's father/brother is an alcoholic. The issue is, not only do people with non-shaking hands get scuff marks on their phone ports anyway, so that alone invalidates his idea, there are so many reasons why someone's hands might shake, I can't even read them out. The only way to do it is with a humorous cutaway. But Sherlock, the omnipotent god he is, knows it's alcoholism. If the show were actually being realistic here, it would play like this.
You'll never see those marks on a sober man's phone, never see a drunk's without them.
Good Lord, that's remarkable. And completely wrong.
You're saying that I was wrong.
Nothing you said was correct.
And this is the rub, because watching Sherlock go through these crazy deductions is the appeal of his character. When they do it right, it's wonderfully entertaining.
Does the art of domestic horticulture mean anything to you? How could a man as meticulous as you own such a book yet completely neglect the flowers in his own window box?
In fact, while the two RDJ movies do sometimes obscure facts from you, making it pretty much impossible to see the reveals coming, which isn't the most satisfying way to write a mystery, they almost completely get it right here. Even better, they show him making BBC Sherlock-esque deductions and reaching too far with his assumptions. He guesses at the age of Mary's student, judging by the height of the ink splashes, but gets it wrong.
Your student. It's a boy of age.
Charlie's 7, actually.
And when he goes for the kill, with what he thinks is a slam dunk of a conclusion, he gets a crucial detail wrong, and it blows up in his face.
You were engaged. The ring has gone, but the lighter skin where it once sat suggests that you spent some time abroad wearing it proudly. That is, until you were informed of its true and rather modest worth, at which point you broke off the engagement and returned to England for better prospects.
Right on all counts, Mr. Holmes, apart from one. I didn't leave him. He died.
Sublime. Simply sublime. Here's where I reckon the writers of his character have gone wrong in the past. Their writing process is first, they decide on what they want the crazy truth to be. It's 3 identical twins posing as one person. It's a homicidal boomerang, etc, etc. Then they plant a trail of clues which lead Sherlock to make that deduction, and this all seems fine for them at the time. However, the mistake they make is when planting this trail, they're so tunnel-visioned, they fail to realise that those very clues have other implications, all of which just as, or perhaps even more plausible than that intended answer. Here's where Sherlock went wrong. Yes, clever people are better at picking up on these kinds of clues and making theories about them. However, that's only half the battle, while Sherlock treats that as the entire battle. In reality, the way intelligence actually works is the person has an idea, they test it, it fails, they realise why it failed, then they correct for that and do it again and again, until they get it right, iterating. Everyone does this all the time, but intelligent people can do this process much faster. If you want to make your character believably clever, this is a great way to do it. This can be in the making deduction, sure, but it can be around any problem a character is trying to solve. You will find that people are way more forgiving of a character achieving fantastical feats if we can see them going through an iteration phase. Iron Man's suit is total rubbish, it could never exist, but the film gets you to not only truly suspend your disbelief, you believe this is a real grounded thing because of how Tony made it, because of how they crushed this aspect. This is unlike Riri Williams from Black Panther 2. If you didn't see that film, don't worry, you didn't miss much. But she, a teenager with nearly no engineering experience, just makes a fully functioning Iron Man suit, one way more advanced than Tony's first one was. It's just too incredible, and certainly not believable. If you do want to write a character smarter than you are, you'll find my video on the matter invaluable, and it's up only on Patreon. It'll never be anywhere else. All you've got to do is pledge at the cheapest tier, and you can watch it right now. There's a link for it all down below. If we go back to that whole ring scene from Sherlock, if Sherlock had come up with like 4 implications of why she takes off her ring so often, and then one by one tested these theories, looking for confirmation perhaps with her nails. Are her nails long and ornate? If so, she probably doesn't work with her hands, so you can knock that one off the list. And then we see him eliminating possibilities one by one. Suddenly it becomes a very believable depiction of genius. And the only Sherlock episode that actually showcases him going through this kind of process is in the Hounds of the Baskervilles one, where he's trying to figure out why they saw that terrible beast. Were they drugged? If so, when and where did it get into their system? Seeing Sherlock guessing and getting it wrong again and again is actually incredibly satisfying. It's quite frankly well written, and it makes it even more cathartic in the end when he finally finds the answer to the puzzle. Usually his first assumption is the correct answer, and they just leave it there. And believe it or not, in later seasons, Sherlock gets even more unhinged with its depiction of genius until... No, actually, I don't want to go there. No, please, don't make me rewatch Sherlock Season 4, please, no! Okay, so I rewatched Sherlock Season 4, and it's worse than I remember, somehow. In fact, how they handle Sherlock's sister Euros is easily the worst handling of a genius character I have ever seen, like in fiction, period. There's a line of dialogue, and it just underpins everything perfectly. I'm just going to play it. It's this.
She predicted the exact dates of the last 3 terrorist attacks on the British mainland after an hour on Twitter.
What a fucking line! Like, I don't need to do anything, do I? Like, normally I analyze these things and break them down, but what's the point? Like, that line is so obviously moronic. But here's another one. She's such a genius, she can pretend to be another person right in front of Sherlock, and he won't be able to realize that she's his sister. What? How did a human write this? This is somehow worse than the Twitter line. Like, firstly, that's not being a genius, that's just being good at acting. Secondly, I've got a brother, and if he came up to me, but wearing a hat and glasses, saying, "My name is Guy Incognito," I would instantly laugh, because I would have to assume it's a joke. Like, no siblings who grew up together wouldn't immediately recognize each other, even if they're pulling a Clark Kent with their glasses. The only way her plan here could have ever worked was if Sherlock had prosopagnosia. This condition, which makes recognizing faces far harder, but he doesn't. I suppose the only other exception would be if he has childhood amnesia exclusively around his sister, which... Oh, he does. Well, I can still keep this point, because his sister didn't know this about Sherlock until later on, so she sincerely thought her plan was going to work.
Mycroft told me you'd rewritten your memories. He didn't tell me you'd written me out completely.
Some genius she is. But you guys, you're in for a treat. Like, that whole predicting things through doom-scrolling Twitter, it's nothing. It pales in comparison to the worst bit. It's this.
Euros doesn't just talk to people. She reprograms them. Anyone who spends time with her is automatically compromised.
She has a magical ability to indoctrinate people with a brief conversation. We're talking full Mass Effect Reaper-style indoctrination, and she's done it to everyone in the facility, without exception. Like, every guard, every janitor has become her thrall. Only Mycroft has been immune to this in the past, because only he's clever enough to withstand her psychic attacks. So, humans aren't computers. You don't hack a brain like a computer and suddenly you have total access and can reprogram them into thinking anything you like and worshipping you like a god, which they do for Euros.
But Euros' home's in the world
Who the hell would I pray to?
But rather, everyone has values and motivations stemming from those values. In order to achieve the kind of mind control Euros has, where these people forego believing in justice or patriotism or abandoning their god in favour of her, you need to change/exploit the fundamental values that person has in order to change their core beliefs. The problem here, and it's something that we've all faced in life, except for the writers of Sherlock apparently, is that it's pretty much impossible, even with perfect logic, to get people to change their stances on this kind of stuff. Like, humans are just too stubborn, and we're not morons who just believe anything that someone might say, no matter how persuasive that might be. Now, if Euros had spent years working over the director and just him, and she'd convinced him to side with her somehow, that might be okay. But everyone in this entire prison? Fuck off! And hold on, we're not even done yet. It gets worse.
Please give me an explicit verbal indication of your anxiety levels. I can't always read them from your behavior.
You're telling me this super socially adept megamind, so genius at understanding human behaviour that she can brainwash anyone after a brief conversation, is unable to tell when someone is feeling anxiety? What? It's one thing to give a character a stupid ability like they did, but it's quite another when you can't get the character straight. Either she's a genius at understanding the human mind and how to hack it, or she's not. She can't be both, but they make her both because they think that her not understanding how emotions work makes her more spooky. It is no wonder that this episode killed the show. The writing is both atrocious and indicative of a larger problem with genius and how the idea of it is overly romanticised to the point of being ineffable. The truth is that while some people are abnormally good in certain areas, the mechanics and thought processes for how they do what they do are always understandable. But with Sherlock, the writers never made the effort to understand. To them, intelligence might as well be magic. So that's how it comes across. But you know how sometimes you'll be invited to a dinner party with your boss, but you don't want to cause a fuss by mentioning your deathly allergies, but it'll be fine, you think, until you realise you're allergic to everything he's serving. And so you have to worm your way out of eating, otherwise you'll lose your job/die.
Yeah, that is kind of intense.
Me too, and so must my fellow film nerd Patrick Willems, who's just released his film The Dinner Plan with that premise. You can watch this right now, and only on Nebula. Unlike YouTube, Nebula is totally ad-free. Unlike YouTube, there is no AI slop, just a growing library of curated, thoughtful videos from myself and your favourite creators. Oh, and did I mention you can watch all of my videos there way before they release on YouTube. My next video, Why Show Don't Tell is Terrible Advice, which is going to ruffle a lot of feathers and change a lot of people's perspectives on how to write, is up there now. Supporting the creator economy, saying goodbye to a YouTube algorithm hacking your brain, watching your usual videos but without the ads, and having a mountain of exclusive content like The Dinner Plan, signing up's a no-brainer, especially when the price is just $2.50 a month, and especially because you get a free trial to see if this is all up your alley. All you've got to do is click my link in the description or scan this QR code. It's incredibly good value for money. And while we're here, something very nifty, lifetime memberships are now 40% off. Pay once and watch Nebula forever. If not for yourself, maybe someone close to you would appreciate a lifetime membership as a gift this Christmas. There's a link for it all down below. But thanks for watching. Do check out The Dinner Plan and my next video on Nebula, and I'll see you guys next time on The Closer Look.